Greetings! Let me see those hands again! Hell on now! Everybody jump!
You're tuned to Off the Ball, the most petty and ill-informed sports programme on radio. Football, frivolity and birthday felicitations. I'm Stuart Cosgrove, he's Tam Cowan, and you're tuned to the odd couple of Scottish football. Yes, indeed, it's going to be a busy show today, and we have as our guest Miss Emma Black. Emma, welcome back to Off the Ball. Much to talk about, Tam. We've got football talking points, we've got Sunday papers, and we've got some great music. Let's have a wee rattle through the talking points.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll be going with there's continued reports, speculation, call it what you will, about Graham Souness making a return to Ibrox.
He's not swimming round the...
No, I remember looked at his shape. He was in for 70 and
get
thought,
him on.
what size of boots did they get again? But no, there's talk of him coming back in some capacity, as they keep saying, at the club within the hierarchy at Ibrox. So, you know that he would rumble things up right away. He always courted a bit of controversy. So I'm asking the listeners at large, who else? Give us another character from the past in Scottish football that you think it'd be sensational if he was parachuted in for the start of the new season, right?
Yeah.
And my second story, Stuart, there's a lovely story that's on the BBC News website. And I'm calling this one in the phone call you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Poor old Barry Wilson, it's a great story. He revealed that he was in the Scotland squad for all of 7 minutes. And that's because, in paying tribute to Craig Brown, Craig had phoned up Barry Wilson and told him that he was getting a cap call.
Yeah.
Barry was naturally delighted until Craig suddenly realised he was meaning to call Barry Nicholson. Now, Barry Nicholson, I think, was at Dunfermline at the time. Barry Wilson was at Livingston at the time. Yeah. Craig had hit the wrong Barry on his phone, so I'm sure it had been a good laugh. Barry Wilson certainly took it in good part, but that is the phone call he'll never forget. He was in the Scotland team for 7 minutes. That are the two for me. Souness. Talk of him returning to Rangers. Who would you bring back to Scottish football? And what is the phone call you'll never forget?
I'm going with a piece that's in today's paper. It's in the Herald on Sunday. The transformation by Robson into the ideal manager. It's an interview with Archie Knox by Fraser Mackey. And basically he's saying it's changed days as the troublemaker now has the stunning success as a boss. This is, of course, Barry Robson, the Aberdeen manager, who Archie Knox remembers as a indisciplined troublemaker in his early days. So he's a very unlikely manager, but he's not the only one in Scottish football.
Nominations in, please. And what else, Stuart?
Well, I'm actually going with another debate, which is the lost art of the midfield enforcer. Murray Davidson of St Johnstone has retired, and actually there was a great interview with him in the Courier in the last 2 days, and he had said that he loved playing with Graham Shinney, who's returned to Aberdeen, and Jim Goodwin from his days at St Mirren, because they were up for a battle in midfield. He thinks that's a dying art, and partly because change of rules, the emergence of VAR, the whole idea of plastic pitches, meaning that slide tackling is declining.
Yep.
So it's the lost art of the midfield enforcer. Who was the one at your club, and who would you love to see back?
Great topics in the company of Emma Black. And Emma, what an honour this is. The Off the Ball jukebox is all based on your surname.
Yeah.
It's going to be black music. Well, I know Stuart will be really struggling here to think of any. I don't mean necessarily black artiste, but the word black in the title, maybe somebody with black as a surname, whatever. And here is our first tune, a perfect example.
Blackberry gotta keep pushing on. The sun don't rain all the time. There's gonna be some heartache and pain. Woke up Sunday morning, got a little bad news today. They say my life ain't worth living, and time is slowly ticking away. Don't think that I'm going crazy, 'cause thoughts keep running through my head. I know I gotta be strong, gotta hold on. Sometimes I'd rather give up instead. Seem like I'm better off dead. Blackberry molasses, oh, blackberry molasses, never change. It'll never change. You gotta keep pushing on. The sun don't rain all the time. There's gonna be some heartache and pain. Heartache and pain. Don't tell me how to live my life after all that we've been through. Don't wanna hear about your hardships, 'cause I've been there myself a time or two. Still life goes on if you just keep holding on. So many things you'll survive once you realize there's no such place as paradise, at least in my eyes. Blackberry molasses, one of the things that never change. You gotta keep pushing on. The sun don't rain all the time. There's gonna be some heartache and pain. Blackberry molasses, one of the things that never change. You gotta keep pushing on. The sun don't rain all the time. There's gonna be some heartache and pain. Blackberry molasses, one of the things that never change. You gotta keep pushing on. The sun don't rain all the time. There's gonna be some heartache and pain. Blackberry molasses, one of the things that never change.
An evergreen record there. That was Bob and Marcia's version of Young, Gifted and Black, the Nina Simone classic. Now, Tam, let me hit you with this one. You like
Right.
your bit of detail. Nina Simone composed the record as a tribute to her best friend Lorraine Hansberry, who was a playwright who died, and they were having a fundraiser for her. She said, I need a song that captures her spirit. And her co-writer was a young man called Weldon Irvin, and she said, Nina Simone said to him, Weldon, we need lyrics for tonight. And he was taking his girlfriend downtown in a car and hadn't written any lyrics. So what happened was he got to 45th and Broadway. You've been there.
Yes.
Right in the heart of Manhattan. And his car stopped and the lights had failed. And he couldn't drive any further. So he got a pencil out and wrote Young, Gifted and Black.
Wow, for the driver's seat.
For the driver's seat.
Oh,
yeah.
that's incredible.
So they're not bad, eh?
I'm so glad you told me that story. That's a cracker. That is a cracker, and you've not told it in this show before.
No.
Brilliant. Right, well, listen.
There's plenty I have told in this show before.
Yes,
but-
absolutely. We are indeed joined by Emma Black, and of course, Emma's still involved in the women's football, and I respect that. A regular pundit with Jane Lewis on a Monday night.
Can I just ask the truth here? Young, Emma, are you still young?
Well, I'm now closer to 40, which I don't like, which isn't good.
But you're still in your
Still
30s.
young.
But you just off air, you did tell us you're going back to Benidorm this year.
Yeah.
That qualifies.
That qualifies.
Young
yeah.
spirited, young at
Absolutely,
heart.
still there.
And gifted?
Yeah, I'd go with that. Obviously,
Yeah.
gifted.
I know
I'm
the
not going to put myself down.
I can hazard a guess at the third, but no. If you were going to ask her if she was black, no. Definitely
She's
is not.
Emma Black.
Aye. But anyway, listen, so Emma Black being the key word
Yeah.
for everything in the jukebox today. And I'm going to start with Stuart because his name has popped up in the show quite a bit in recent weeks, mainly because he's brilliant charity fundraising for Deborah and his cross-channel swim. Sadly, George McCluskey couldn't get his hands on any sharks to get there in the boat and just let them loose in the channel. But, yeah, Graham Souness, the man who, make no bones about it, absolutely lit up Scottish football when he arrived as Rangers player-manager in the mid-1980s. There is talk of him coming back in some capacity, some as an ambassador or whatever it may be at Rangers. And certainly, and I can speak as somebody involved in the media as far as it goes with newspapers and of course radio, you would welcome him with open arms.
It's a good question that, Tam, because his first arrival back in Scotland, I mean, he had the first time I ever heard the name Graham Souness, I was reading a copy of the Daily Record. Do you know that? It's a
fabulous newspaper.
Daily newspaper, yes. 25,000 copies. It'll soon be done as far as the fanzine. But anyway, Daily Record, great read. And on the front cover of the Record was a 15-year-old boy from Edinburgh who was at Tottenham Hotspur. And he had said, if I'm not in the first team by the end of this season, I'll be leaving. 15-year-old.
Aye.
And actually he did. He went to Middlesbrough, I
Yep.
think. And Graham Souness, if you followed his career, he was astonishingly committed and self-believing young man. But when he arrived back in Scotland, he did to a wee bit of controversy because
A wee bit?
Margaret Thatcher wasn't popular in Scotland, and he kind of endorsed her, and so therefore he had a lot of kind of controversy around him. But here's a thought. Has the man transformed his image? Because he seems now much more...
Absolutely.
He seems much more caring.
For a start, he was an absolutely, in the 15, 20 years, whatever it was, with Sky, who he only recently left, an absolutely brilliant pundit. And one of the guys who was always worth listening to, Emma, because if anybody ever said, the show is your medals argument, Souness could have just brought out the briefcase. There you go, what one do you want to start with, right? I thought he didn't suffer fools. Even guys like Roy Keane, he had some great old shindigs with him live on air. And the guy had been there and done it, but what he did when he came into Scottish football, and most notably, of course, the signing of one Maurice Johnston, Esquire, it was absolute box office. And even if Souness, came back to Rangers and he was strictly in a suit and stuck up the stairs somewhere in an office and you only saw flashes of him in the director's box at Rangers games, you just know that he would bring something to the party because that's the sort of guy that he is. So what I'm asking you is then, it's still hypothetical about Souness coming back. Who else would you bring back to Scottish football that would have you slavering? Now I've got two.
Tom, you have turned us into a radio show that talks hypothetically about Rangers.
Well,
I know enough of them about.
Well, I'll give you two. First up, in the era of the kind of shock jocks of the punditry world, be it your Chris Suttons or Chris Boyds or whatever, none of them, in that sense, could either of them could tie the shoelaces of one Mr. Jerry McNee, Esquire. Now, Jerry is still very much hale and hearty. He splits his time, I think, between Donegal and the south side of Glasgow.
We know what that's all about.
He did have a lot of the old piping done a number of years ago, but as far as I'm aware, he's fit. And a wee comeback for Jerry. That actually would, you're chuckling earlier about, sadly, circulation figures in print newspapers these days. Jerry's the sort of guy who would get folks still picking up a newspaper. Jerry's a guy who I followed in his newspaper career. Jerry is the only reason I went through a spell of buying the Daily Express when he had a twice weekly column and that, because Jerry was just a great read. And then he went to the News of the World for big bucks via the Sunday Mail, of course. And I just think he would really know how to rummel it up.
I'm going to get the editor to clip that bit. Man admits that he read the Daily Express.
Well, that's Jerry for you. So he's one that I would bring back, if you like, off the pitch, if you like, and somebody that I would bring back in a blazer capacity, if you like. There's a gentleman who apparently on social media seems to have the answer to all of Scottish football woes and ills while he is overlooking Lake Como, where he lives now. Do you know who I'm talking about here?
I do indeed. The former head of the Scottish FPL, well, the SPL at the time.
The SPL, the engineer, the architect, whatever you want to call him, the fall guy, some folks say. And the guy, maybe it was easy, same way Jim Farry got the finger wagged at him, whereas you'd get a lot of folks saying, I'll tell you what, if we had a Jim Farry now, he